My wife just came home with the mail, and I had a package from my mechanic. I had sent these boxes down to him to have him check them out before I put them on, and he sent them back to me with a note saying that he thought they all looked good. I'd suggested that I like number 4 the best, which is the one that I TIG brazed the face on there. He agreed that that one was the best, but he said they were all good. He liked all of them, so that was good news. He's kind of the final authority. I wanted him to check those out before I put them on the airframe on the airplane and started drilling holes in the firewall and stuff. So I can take this one down now and start putting it on the airplane, and once I get this on and hooked up, then I can put the boot cowl on and start finish fitting the windshield on, and then put the wings on. So that's exciting. I'm anxious to get that done. Problem is, it's too damn cold out there to work on it today, and it will be for the next week. It got down to about 5 degrees last night, and this morning it was still cold, 7 degrees or something like that early. I guess it was about 20 degrees in the shop, and in the hangar it was about 12 degrees, which was warmer than outside. I built fires in the stoves in there, and I got the hangar up to 28 degrees and the shop up to a sweltering 40 degrees. The hangar, I can't get it much warmer than that. Even if I turned on the radiant heaters and the electric heat in there, it still would maybe get up to freezing or something, or above freezing, but it's not going to get warm enough to work. I'm not comfortable working in that cold weather anymore with my bare hands, and I have to do some precision work drilling out that firewall and stuff. I have to drill the firewall out for a 2-inch hole for this end to fit through there, and then the scat tube will fit over that. Well, what I can do is drill this out for the mount holes on here. I think I'll drill those out for I was thinking a number 6 screw, but maybe I should put a number 8 screw on that. I'm anxious to get going on this. I'm anxious to get going anyway, but my boss stopped by a couple days ago and told me I still have a job. They actually got some extra money so they could start flying a little bit in April. I'm probably not going to be ready in April, but anyway, it was good to know that I still have a job, even though I didn't fly at all last year. And one of the fishermen I talked to a couple days ago told me I needed to hurry up and get that plane ready to go so I get flying again so he can catch some fish. He says he catches fish a lot better when I'm flying than he does when I'm not. Even though I don't fly for them, I fly for Fish and Game. But anyway, that was good news too. I got that drilled out for the mounting screws. Again, for number 8 screws is a clearance hole for number 8. So those are all drilled and deburred and ready to go. Almost forgot how to do that, it's been so long. I was so excited about getting this box back from a mechanic with the approval on it to use it, that I decided to go ahead and come out here and try working on it anyway. It's still too cold to work on it, but I just I say excited about getting it together and getting it going, so I decided to come out here. Well, it got down to about 3 degrees last night. It took a while to warm up a little bit at all today outside. I came out here and turned on the radiant heaters up above and the little space heater in the corner, and after 3-4 hours it finally got up to 32 degrees. It got up to 18 degrees outside, got up to 32 degrees in here, or 0 for you Celsius fanatics. Anyway, I worked on this a little bit. I got this in box and started holding it up here to figure out where the hole is going to be and where it's going to mount. This is the control cable here, and kind of trying to check out how to get everything lined up and fit it in here. And I kind of decided it was going to go right in here, but this tube on here projects out and keeps that from going in there. And these tubes, the frame here comes out at an angle from where the firewall attach point is, and so this gets pushed out a ways farther than what it needs to, because it's held off the firewall about 1 inch. So if it goes in 1 inch farther, it could actually go in that way farther. So to figure out where to how to mount that, I went and got one of these practice pieces that I had in there with the wider flange on it, and I brought it out here and set it up in here, and I can set that against the firewall like that, and then get a better idea of how far out this way here away from the framework it's got to be in the right spot. Well, I figured out where I wanted to mount it, and I got the scissors and a razor and cut out this firewall pad there. I'm kind of getting a rough idea where it's going. Well, now I need to figure out where that hole has got to be through the firewall. What I did here is I cut a piece of poster board, kind of a template here, cut a 2-inch hole in it, fitted it over my box that I'm going to use, and cut it out, the lines and everything out on it. I'm going to set that here, and I got a little bit of masking tape if it'll hold on here, and tape that on. Hello, cat. You want me to pick you up again now, huh? Anyway, I'll get a little bit of masking tape on there to hold that up. Try to line this up so it's square and get it lined up in the right position. I've got a compass set up to 1 inch. I'll put the compass on the edge of that hole there and just mark a radius there. Put it here. Yeah, just to make sure I got it pretty close, I'll take it there. I'll make a couple more of them just for good measure. Alright, got my automatic center punch here, and I'm going to set it right there where all those lines come together, kind of average them out, just make a little punch mark there. Let's see if we can line this drill up enough. Yeah, I can get it in there straight. I've got that drill bit lined up on that center mark. Okay, that's through there. I've got a piece of wood clamped on there to back up that hole. Well, I've got a little hole saw that I bought. It's a Greenlee carbide hole saw that everybody swore by. That's what I used to cut the holes out in these last plates here for these boxes. Well, here we go. Let's see if we can't ruin this firewall. There we go. One hole in the firewall. Nice clean hole. Let's see how it fits. Oh yeah, perfect. Alright. Alright, there we go. Yeah, I've got enough clearance on there for that. It doesn't touch this mount back here. I'm going to do a little bit of work on trimming more of that blanket around it, but that looks pretty good. Nice tight hole, and yeah, everything looks really good. Actually, that's better than the one when I had it mounted in the other airplane and the professional mechanic did it. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Barely fits in there. Nice tight hole. There's what it looks like on the back side. I've got clearance between it and this frame. Here it doesn't touch it. Cool, that's good. Now I got to drill these holes, these mount holes. Well, I got the hole drilled out in that, and I deburred it. I tried using one of these deburring tools in it, but they never work very well in that stainless steel, especially the sheet. So I wound up digging out a half-round needle file, and I used that, and that cleaned it up pretty good. And then I put this up in here and marked this first hole, drilled it, and then put a screw in it. And then I marked this lower hole, again drilled it, put a number 8 screw in it. And then these two holes over here were a little more difficult. I couldn't get a pen in there or anything. It just barely get the punch in there. And I punched the holes, punched the location, but I couldn't get a drill bit in there from this side to drill out backwards. So I took my punch and came out here on the face and found the peak, the dimple, the pimple where it was sticking out, and reversed it, punched it back the other way, and then I took a drill bit and back drilled it from the front side there, and I got them all lined up. I'm using these same screws that I used to assemble the whole airplane, these 6-lobe stainless steel machine screws, and I just set them up using a regular 1032, just a steel nut to hold them on there while I light them out. But I'm not going to put them on with a plain nut, and I want a lock nut on there. And for most everything else you can use 365 lock nut, but since this is on the firewall and may be subject to heat, the plastic insert in the 365 might melt, which would loosen up the screw and maybe cause it to fall out. So I've got some AN 363 nuts. These are stainless steel. Those pinch on the end of them and they lock like that. Now that's what I'm going to use on these. Alright, that box is all hard mounted up there, all screwed onto the firewall. My fingers are not the most delicate things for doing this kind of work in the first place, but they're getting kind of cold here, so I was afraid I was going to drop those nuts trying to put them on there and maybe not be able to get in there, but I got in there and got them all on there, and so that thing's mounted on there good. Now I got to get this control cable pinned on there someplace, tied on there so that the cable, inner cable, can move back and forth and the outer cable doesn't move back and forth. And I can put this piece of scat tube up there on there and that thing will be done. And there's what it looks like on the outside, mounted all up. The box is mounted up. I cut the 1-inch scat tube, got a hose clamp and slid it up on there and got it clamped up. And I've got an idea how I'm going to mount this control cable. I need to get some 1/2-inch Adel clamps. There's a bar that goes across here between these two structures here that's 1/2 inch, and I don't have any clamps that'll fit that. But what I'm going to do is put a couple of clamps on that tube and then a couple clamps, small clamps on this cable to hold it tight, and that'll hold it out away from the firewall, keep it from rubbing on anything there, and also clamp it down so that the wire here, the inside control wire, can move back and forth to operate this. I'm going to have to go look those up, and I don't think I have any more. I'm going to have to go order some, I guess. Well, I went in and spent some time yesterday searching on the internet for the clamps that I wanted. And I found a place there that had them for a pretty decent price. I set up an order for, I think, a dozen each of them or something that came. They were almost as inexpensive for a dozen of them as they were for one of them out of some of the other outlets like Aircraft Spruce. So I set that order up there, and when I put it in, or got ready to put it in, it was like $40-some for the order for the clamps, but they wanted $80-some minimum for shipping. So I decided to see if I can find an alternative to that. Well, I got to thinking, and I've got a bunch of these cushioned clamps here, different sizes. If I take the cushion off of these, they'll fit just right on this tube going through here. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to put one of these clamps on each end of this bar here. I've got some other clamps that I can make work for this control cable here. I've got one that's the actual size, right size for the control cable. I'll put on this end, which will clamp it down and keep the wire part of the cable from moving around, the wound portion of the cable from moving back and forth, so the control portion of it can go back and forth in there. And then I'll put another one on the other side over here to hold that up, to keep it from chafing underneath the instrument panel here, from getting in interference with these wire bundles and stuff like that, keep it from chafing on any of those. Okay, well, it took a little bit of finagling to get these clamps on here and stuff. Put one on this spreader bar here that goes across, this small one. I put it down here on this left side to control that cable, to keep it up out of the way of all the wiring and stuff. And I was going to do that on this side here, but I found it was better to go on this diagonal brace right here instead. So I had to move my wiring bundle up a little bit. I got a clamp in there, and the small clamp for the cable, and I got that in there and all tied in finally. And so everything works like it's supposed to. I got an AN 364 nut on there, lock nut on that handle, and just on there tight enough. The cable is on there. I don't want it tight because the cable has to pivot on that screw. But there it is. Works like a charm. Closes good, nice and tight. That cable is routed in there so that it's not interfering with anything else. It's not going to rub on anything else. Now I can start putting the boot cowling on there. Well, I've done one more thing here to this now that I've got it done. I noticed when I took that airframe apart that that heat box that was on there for the backseat heater got really hot, and it had radiated heat out against the tubing and stuff on the airplane. Normally the fuel line would have run down in here and then gone across. Well, I routed the fuel line inside there so it's farther away from this heat box, and then I got some high temp sleeving to put over the top of that to help protect it. And then I got some of this insulation here. This is a fireproof insulation. I'd gotten some of that with the intent of wrapping it around this box or protecting these tubes. So anyway, that's what I've done here. I've taken and cut some of that insulation that I got, and I put in so that it's between the box and the tubes here where they run through, and then I actually wrapped it all the way around it so that the heat doesn't come out on this boot cowl here. It's open here on the back mostly, and then I've got a stainless steel tie wrap that I wrap that up with and hold that down with. Well, that should keep the heat in this box from damaging this, although hopefully this valve works better than that other valve did on there. So then the valve is against the firewall, pretty much against the face of this, so it shouldn't allow any heat into that box at all unless the valve is open, and then the heat should travel down through that tube. But say hopefully that'll prevent any heat damage on anything.